Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. If you're paying attention, you know that you only make money when you work. It might be great money, but it's dependent on you. The information on this podcast will help you solve that. We interview experts and provide analysis into financial freedom through commercial real estate. Why? To help physicians like you thrive. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the show. Today, we are talking with Nancy Huynh. Again, this is the second half of our conversation. Again, Nancy is an ophthalmologist, an entrepreneur, and a real estate investor from Atlanta, Georgia. If you missed the first half of this conversation, it was awesome. She gave some great insights to how doctors think and the things that help us and hurt us or keep us from moving forward. Today, what I want to at least start our conversation off is Nancy works on things where she describes it as having a positive social impact with her real estate. Can you explain more of that, Nancy?
Yeah, when I started investing in real estate, obviously I was after the returns and what it could do for me and my family. But as I started reflecting more, is that really the purpose? Yes, we need to provide for ourselves, and one of the vehicles is through real estate. But my bigger passion is how can I make an impact with what I'm investing in? And so, it's called impact investing. There's actually a term for that. And so I look at real estate as like a prime vehicle for that, because the asset in itself, particularly with multifamily, impacts communities in major ways, both in the property itself with the residents and also in the surrounding communities. And I've seen it in the projects that I've invested in where the residents are impacted because these are places where people spend their birthdays, their Christmases, their Thanksgivings with their families. And if you think about how you create memories in your homes, in these apartment communities, that's where they're creating memories in their homes. So really trying to provide that, great living environment for these residents is key. But also just the great thing about apartment is that it creates a community. And I've seen where some of the buildings that I've invested in, they've planted community gardens where they promote healthy eating, put playgrounds for kids so that they have a place to play. And even one property I invested in, they had an after school program where instead of the kids, roaming the streets, they're able to come in and have tutors, watch them do their homework and help them with their homework. Take them to a baseball game. So I just really seen how just investing in the asset class itself can do that. But on a little bit larger scale, one of my big passion projects and mission and how I got into ophthalmology was really witnessing how there's so much preventable blindness around the world. So part of the real estate, profits that I make goes to donating to this cause. And I partnered with a great organization that not only promotes this in providing cataract surgery, glasses, medications for preventable causes of blindness, but also they promote an entrepreneurial spirit within these countries and these communities because they build vision centers to empower the local people to screen their own people for vision disorders, and then also to train the local people, the surgeons to do cataract surgery. So that's why that's what kind of drives the bigger mission of what I do is I have this larger vision being an ophthalmologist and my roots of how I got into the field in the first place.
That is so exciting. So do you ever have some of the people you invest with who've entered your circle from real estate work together on these things too?
Not yet, but that is the hope. I've developed a small group of ophthalmology investors just because I'm an ophthalmologist. That's kind of my circle. So I'm hoping a couple years down the line, we could actually go to these sites that we're funding through Clear Vision and maybe offer our physical services where we do cataract surgery or just vision screenings. So that's kind of the larger mission I have in mind for the next couple of years.
Wow, that's really fun. That's, you see, in the first part of our conversation, you talked about the connections in the community and how, really the whole success in real estate is related to relationships. And the bigger the bigger your network, the bigger your net worth. But then it builds into more of a social thing in so many ways that of my kind of inner investing circle and the people that I rely on to help me analyze deals, when we get together, it's a fun time too. It's just some of the best times that I have. And what's awesome is now you're taking that to another level, that it started out as a venture, as a business venture. And then you get the fun out of it, but then also taking that whole group and moving to where you're having this bigger impact on something outside of it. And with real estate, if you're building more financial abundance, which then gives you the ability to do some things like that.
Yeah, I think financial and money is just a tool. And that's how I like to think of it. It's like, how are you going to use that hammer as a tool? How are you going to use that axe, whatever you describe money as? And really, it's just, how can you multiply the good and make more of an impact with that money that you're earning, right? Through real estate investing. And that's kind of my goal is like, yes, I want people to have financial abundance and financial independence so they have more freedom, both in terms of time, but also mind to think about what they really have to do. Because I firmly believe that once you get that financial piece taken care of, your true passions really come up about what you want to do. And I wish that on everyone to be able to live up to that, you know, what's truly in their heart.
And this is great. This is a quote from Nancy in her bio. It's difficult to enact change from a position of financial instability. Physicians who are financially free will have the best shot at influencing our broken healthcare system for the better. So even outside of this healthcare system, you've taken that a step further and helping improve systems in other parts of the world that don't have the same resources.
Yeah, I mean, you're a physician, so you know our system is not perfect. I mean, there's some good things, but I think over the past couple of decades, it's just shifted into a direction where more and more physicians have lost their autonomy. And I don't want physicians to just, you know, lay down and play dead and pretend that we're completely a victim to the system. I want physicians to feel like they're empowered. But I truly believe that physicians cannot and will not stand up if they don't have some sort of strong financial footing. Because what keeps a lot of people from speaking up is because they need that paycheck. They're afraid to get fired. They need the cases to support their families. But if you think about, what if that wasn't the case? What if most physicians are financially sound, financially free, where they're practicing because they want to serve the patients? I mean, can you imagine like what that would do for the whole doctor community, the whole physician community, for patients, for healthcare in general? And that's why I say that the best chance for a revival of the healthcare system, overturning, so to say, is really physicians who are in good financial position. And I think real estate is one of the best ways to help physicians achieve that.
That's such a great, it's one of those things that it kind of floated around in my head, but I love the way you said that, because that was kind of one of my things when I started doing this, is I wasn't happy with the returns I got from the stock market. And you're looking at this, as I, trying to fill my bucket and save enough money, and how long do I have to do this? And that can add to the drudgery because you're trying to push through to some point. And when that shifted, when I saw a difference in income flow and as the real estate thing built, there came this freedom that I don't have to do it this way. And then you can do things the way you want to rather than the way you think you might have to.
Yeah, I think you said a key word there is, I don't have to do this, but I want to. And I want every doctor to feel that to the core. Like, I don't have to do this, but I want to. And that provides a sense of freedom, like it lifts the weight off. And I think the burnout epidemic that's prevalent in the physician community will largely go away when people are able to sense that. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but at least I feel like, yourself, myself, a larger physician community who's kind of driving towards this, kind of realize that we have to be the solution to the change. Like no one's going to come and save us. No one's going to come and save us physicians. If we want to provide a change the culture of medicine and healthcare, is going to have to be us.
So we should make a game plan here. So somebody's listening and they're like, yes, this is the way I want to go. And they're all excited right now. The first steps, if you have no experience, I think is education. We've all done that. And there is information on Nancy's website and there's other places out there. There's a lot of, seems like overwhelming terms, but I think that's the first step. And then you got to take the next step because a lot of people get stuck in the learning. I just got to learn a little bit more. So what would you say then? So somebody's learned some terms, they're wrapping their head around it a little bit. What's the next step?
Yeah, I think the first step is education, like you said, just realizing what options do they have. If they feel like real estate would be a good vehicle to add to their portfolio or that is something they want to invest in. The next question I would say is, what is your investment goal, right? Talking about that end goal, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to get out of medicine completely and retire at age 45? What you're going to invest in is going to look very different from a doctor who's in their 60s near retirement and just wants some steady cash flow coming in or preserving their wealth. And then I think the next question to ask after that is, do you want to be active or do you want to be passive? Because those are two very different things in terms of commitment, skill sets, etc. If you want to own your own properties, it's going to be very different than if you want to invest passively, say, in a syndication. And then once you kind of decide that, is really going out, analyzing deals, and just doing it. You got to take action at some point. You could get all the knowledge in here, but if there's no action, nothing is going to happen. So those are kind of the steps: is first get educated, decide what your end goal of investing is, if it is with real estate, and then next, active or passive, and then taking action, whether that be starting to vet sponsors, looking at deals, if you want to be on the more active, looking at deals, underwriting it, touring properties, etc. So which route you take is going to look very different in terms of the action, but I think it all starts with education and awareness.
And even I'm going to challenge that a little bit and just say that I think we could even jump in, and maybe this is where docs aren't used to jumping in, that so much of it is relationships. And in those relationships, you are part of the learning. The more people you talk to, the more you get to know, you learn things that maybe you wouldn't have even thought about. And that's where even early on, as soon as you know a little bit, make a phone call, have a Zoom call with somebody, because that's what all syndicators, we talked about the general partners, which are running it. That's the active, the limited partners who are passive. But within the syndicators of the general partners, you have people who do investor relations, and their job is to talk to people. And they don't expect everybody they talk to invest. But every time you talk to one of those people, you're going to learn something and you're going to ask them questions. And even it's not wasting their time. If you call even going, I really have no interest, I'm not ready, but I'm going to talk to somebody, they're happy to talk to you because you might invest and that's their goal. But I learned a lot when I just started talking to people who I had, and some of them were just conversations at conferences. I had no interest in investing with them, but I still learned a lot. And so those conversations, sometimes that action can be part of the learning too.
Oh, absolutely. I think, we talk about relationship capital. That's part of it. Starting out, I always encourage investors like, hey, I know you're not ready, but just start in the process, getting in the habit of, quote, vetting sponsors, meaning, talking to their investor relationships or talking to the sponsor directly, depending on how their company is structured, just to ask the questions that, you have that due diligence checklist that you downloaded from my website or that you found in some book. Just start asking, 5, 10 or 10 of them and see how they answer. And then even if you're not ready, just get on their list and then go on the webinars that they're doing and seeing, and you can sit on the sidelines to see how they operate if you don't feel comfortable, because actions speak louder than words. So just following the deal as it goes along, right? And then when the next deal comes, if you are ready, then you've kind of done your due diligence already and observe the sponsor kind of from afar without having to put your own money in.
That's a great, the getting on their list. And what'll happen when you get on somebody's list is you will be on their email list. And it's a lot of people are like, well, I don't want all those emails. Well, go get another Gmail, get a free email, a separate one, put that one on their list. And that can just be your place you go read. And I've learned so much from some of the emails, and some of them I pop open and I scan and I'm like, and then you start to see the good ones. You're like, ooh, I always learn a lot from her. I want to read this one. And you just learn through that process too. And so that's a great way to start getting involved.
Yeah. Like the practical application of, say, what you're reading on a website or in a book. Think of it like your residency. You've gained that book knowledge in medical school, and then now you're applying it. So the more deals you look at, you just get used to, this is how the offering memorandum, the OM looks like. This is how the PPM looks like. Like, even if you don't sign it, you could go in and read through it to see what it's about. So when you're ready to invest, you're not taken aback by this huge document, this huge legal document that scares a lot of people away.
And so when was the first time you went to a conference?
Let's see. It was about 3 years ago in person, like not virtual, but an actual like in-person conference. Yep. Yeah. And it makes a difference. I mean, virtual is great because you get to sit in your own home in your comfy clothes, but there's nothing that beats that face-to-face interaction. I mean, I still keep in touch with quite a few people that I met at the conference just because we were on a coffee break and we were chatting. And also you get to listen to speakers who are at the top of their field, different sponsors, and just seeing best practices, what's going on in the economy with the industry itself. But really it's about the connections that really, makes the conference really special. Is that face-to-face, like putting a face to, say, a Zoom, or putting a face to someone on the phone.
Yeah. And that's something that I the first time I went to a conference, I felt like I didn't belong there. Like, well, this is for professionals. And the reality is you meet a lot of people, and you meet some people you don't like at all, and you want to get out of that conversation as quick as you can. And you meet other people who you learn a ton from, and you find some people become friends. It is a great environment, and it does. And it happens because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And it may be somebody you just randomly have coffee with, or that joins you at dinner who's a friend of a friend of a friend. And all of a sudden you're like, this is the most important person I ever met. And that's really, there's all these different routes to kind of get in and get involved.
And it's about that relationship building that we keep harping on, throughout this episode. It's like, it really, I mean, real estate is numbers, it's buildings, but in the end, it's about relationships, whether it be relationships with your sponsor, relationships with your tenant, relationship with your property manager, relationships with your contractor. Like, in the end, real estate is really a relationship business. And conference just kind of, puts everyone in one room with the same interest for a couple of days so that you can eat as much as you want, from the buffet, so to say.
That's awesome. I keep thinking that I'd like to, and I've never done this, but if it was like, I know people have investment clubs, and that would have been a great thing when I first started. If you could have found 2 or 3 or 4, whatever other people that you already got along with to kind of go on the journey together of learning and sharing, and and then you could even pool money to invest in something with a higher minimum investment, so it's less risk while you're figuring it out. I think that would be a great way to kind of help spread it out and get moving along also. Okay, so before we wrap up, I'm going to throw a few questions out here of things you found along the way that were helpful. So what was the best real estate book that you found that helped you on your journey?
I love the Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Keller.
All right. Is there
have you read that book?
I haven't read that book.
Okay. It's just kind of like a broad overview of why real estate, but in a very nicely written format. So it's one of the first books I read when I started investing in real estate.
My first one was the best ever real estate syndication book by Joe Verlis.
With the syndications.
It's, it was one I listened to a lot more books on Audible than I read. And I just listened to it like 4 times, 5 times. I just had it on all the time until I knew it, until none of it seemed foreign anymore. And so as this big step to this big crazy syndication world all of a sudden made sense. Okay, how about the best book that was not a real estate book, but helped with your real estate investing journey through some other way?
Who, Not How.
And is it Benjamin Hardy?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great book. It's so, it's one of those books when I listened to it not that long ago. And I always thought, well, I know about that. It's about the people.
You already know, right?
I already know. But after I read it, it was like this, oh, wow, there's so much more to it. That was a great book.
And it really allowed me to be very intentional every time I make a decision. It's like, do I really need to figure this out? Or is there a who that can figure it out? Most likely the answer is there's a who.
And it goes a lot faster.
Yes.
So here, we'll throw something out to somebody else. What, besides this, is the best podcast that you've liked along the way?
Man, there's so many. There are so many. I love Ed Mylett podcast, the Ed Mylett Show.
Okay.
He's just very much about mindset, with very practical business, entrepreneurial life skills. So I love listening to his podcast. He does solo episodes and also interviews amazing guests, and he's just the best interviewer, in my opinion. Some other ones I like are blanking.
I have to throw out there.
Entrepreneur on Fire. I listen to quite a bit.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Peter Kim, I love his course. And that was really one of my things that got me started was Passive Investor MD.
Yeah.
It's a great course. It seemed like when I took it, oh God, that's a lot of money for a course. The value of it was so much more. So there are courses out there that some are free and some are paid. And I think of any course, all of that information's available for free somewhere in the internet. But what the courses do is they streamline it so you get through it without having to dance all over the place. So those are great things also.
No, I agree. Sometimes that curated content, everything is Googleable these days, but that time that you have to spend looking for that information. So yes, I agree with a lot of these courses. They kind of lay it out for you. This is what you need to know, then this, then this, then this. And it kind of saves you time. So yes, the couple of $1,000s may seem like a big investment, but if you think about the amount of time that you save and the headache, it's really worth it.
And what's your time worth as a doc?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Nancy, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been great. Maybe we'll have to have you back again sometime and have this discussion again, because I've learned a lot from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure being with you.
This has been an episode of Surgeon Syndicate. If you got value from this episode, you know other surgeons are hungry to become job optional, and you can help them by sharing this content today. Schedule a call and we can make a plan. Looking forward to having you with me on the next episode.